Good evening and welcome to SoulFood Coffee House. I'm Michael Dillon Welch. I'm your fearless curator of Soul Food Poetry Night. About 9 years ago, this store opened. I think it was about April 9 years ago. And I wandered in here because I knew it would moved from another location. And I saw them building the stage here and I thought, you know, that just needs to have some poetry read from it. So I pitched the idea of having a monthly poetry evening to Clint when he was opening up Soul Food back then. And we had the very first reading in July of whatever year that was, 9 years ago. So this is the 9th anniversary reading tonight. And I'm very pleased that you're here for that. It's hard to believe that we've been running this for 9 years. 2 featured readers and lots of open mic readers for all those times. Not every month because we had at least 2 or 3 cancellations because of snowstorms. But we also had some other extra makeup readings, not on the regular third Thursday. So roughly it's been about 2 featured readers in the open mic once a month that whole time. So a lot of readers. And each featured reader I asked them to bring a poem that they designate as their soul food poem, however they want to interpret that. And I add it to a binder that we keep here. It's actually at home today because I've been looking through it to see if anything is missing. And there are a few poems that have gone missing that I have to track down. But we've got a wonderful collection of poems from all the featured readers over those many years, and I'm glad we have 2 more poems coming from tonight's reading as well. So the way we'll do this, as usual, is we'll start with our 2 featured readers, take a break, and at which time you can purchase books, which both of our featured readers have their latest books with them here. Then we'll have our open mic after the break, and the sign-up sheet is right up here. And we've got a healthy lot of sign-ups tonight, which is great, more than we've had in a little while. And as is our custom, we have a question of the week, and this week's question, or month rather, is what is your favorite city? And there's some good answers on there, some places I've been and places I'd like to go. To begin, I'd like to read a short poem by Mary Oliver from her 2006 book, Thirst. And this poem is called Praying. To me, it's about writing. It doesn't have to be the blue iris. It could be a weed in a vacant lot or a few small stones. Just pay attention. Then patch a few words together and don't try to make them elaborate. This isn't a contest, but a doorway into thanks and a silence in which another voice may speak. Mary Oliver. Our first featured reader tonight is Peggy Barnett. She knows that the Northwest is beautiful, but memories of the past haunt her. The Holocaust, growing up Jewish in an Italian and Irish neighborhood in Queens, New York in the 1950s, the atomic bomb, public school, and childhood's distant happenings arise in her poetry. She graduated from the Cooper Union with a degree in fine art, opened a photography studio in 1968, and became a corporate still life and portrait photographer. She sold her studio in 2006 and moved north to Seattle to the green fields of Maltby. And I just discovered the garden center there recently, which just a few months ago. It's quite the place. Her poetic memoir, On Your Left, which she has copies of here, dwells on the specifics of unending change. And if you have a chance to see her photographs online, they're really something. Quite a talent, and poetry gives it quite a lot of challenge, competition, I think, is a good word for it. So I'm pleased to have Peggy Barnett with us to read tonight.
That's fine. Thank you. Thank you for that nice introduction, Michael. I appreciate it. How long is this? Okay. I'm going to read some things that are new that aren't in my book, and then I'll read a couple from the book. Okay, my first poem is called Caesar's Underpants. Tall and thin, Miss Urban, our fifth grade teacher at PS 89, looks like olive oil. Her hair bun is huge, a sleek black cat sitting on her thin neck. Miss Urban is unwillingly taking our class to the Theater in the Round production of Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. Wanting to lose us in Manhattan, but not being allowed to, she herds us into an old stone church theater. We sit in the first row, girls on the right side, boys on the left. I'm sitting with my friends Kathy and Justine. It is a play about murderous old adult men droning on by too many old adult men being paid to perform the bard for 10-year-olds. I can't understand what they're mumbling as their spit sparkles in the bright stage lights. Then Caesar declares, "Let me have men about me that are fat." And Mark Antony, Cassius, and Brutus sit down on stone benches. We three girls sit up. Their togas, really too short to sit in, are above their knees now. We are below the stage, our eyes level with the floor. We can see their underpants. Mark Antony's are white cotton and look like a sack of potatoes. Cassius wears black ones that disappear into black curly hair. Lots of curly black hair down to his knees. Brutus has blue boxer shorts with yellow stripes, just like Daddy. We stare, not hearing a word spoken. What kind of underpants does Caesar wear? We wait anxiously for him to sit down. But Caesar doesn't sit down. He's Caesar. Oh my God, we whisper, what if he doesn't wear underpants? We wait, staring in delicious fear. Suddenly we hear, "Hence, wilt thou lift up Olympus?" Then, "Et tu, Brute," then fall, Caesar. Caesar crashes to the ground covered in blood, his toga all messed up and above his knees. Julius Caesar's underpants are blood red. And someone asked me recently, do I dance anymore? And I thought, well, no, not now so much, but I have a poem about dancing. It's called Last Tango in Queens. The smell of Mrs. Roche's soft, wrinkled breasts pushed up against my chin by her huge face-powdered cleavage is in my nostrils. The rigid corset containing her amplitude creaks under my fingers, which are holding the small of her back. A 78 RPM record is playing Begin the Begin. "You lead," she commands, looking over my head at her fourth grade girls and boys reluctantly paired off in the gray basement of PS 89 Queens in 1954. A chain gang learning social dancing. Step right, step together, left foot forward, step together. My stomach is pressed against her thighs, feeling the garter belt clamps, holding up her nylon stockings under her black skirt. There was a horrifying rumor that she took off her pink panties before every class. My mother taught me how to dance before I could walk. A Viennese waltz around the room as she hummed the Blue Danube. Da-da-da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. La Comparsita initiated an Argentine tango with dips across the living room floor. A Cuban cha-cha-cha. I knew them all by the age of 9. Mrs. Roche had watched me and noticed. She always picked me to dance with her. She loved my foxtrot and my rumba. The other children watched me, relieved not to be the chosen one. She was actually a good dancer. It must have been the highlight of her dreary day. I dreaded Tuesday afternoons. As I got older, my ballroom dancing ended. My mother died. I married someone who couldn't dance, couldn't be taught. No one else asked me to dance. Yet, when I think about it, if Mrs. Rocher came up to me right now and asked, "Shall we dance?" I would answer yes. I'm taller now, so we could dance together cheek to cheek. This is called hugs. A warmly intended kiss that turns into a fiery scar is not an anomaly. Mother rarely hugged me. It was supposed to be a kiss planted on my left cheek. Instead, I felt the sting of a burn. She had forgotten that there was still a lit cigarette in her mouth. The orange ash burned a perfect hole into my flesh, a stigmata of our love. The round brown scar below my eye was there for a week, raw flesh oozing, weeping at the edges. I washed my face around it. Growing up without hugs creates a pendulum between sex and affection, one never quite being the other, swinging left and right through generations, too little, too much, never finding stasis between the two parts of longing. Now we have group hugs, the direct descendant of Hare Krishna, when 1960 hippie love-ins enfolded 1,000 of us holding each other, chanting, "Om." Perfect. Oh, I said Om. I mean, is that a car alarm or an ambulance? All I said was Om. Can you hear? Should I go on? Can you hear me? Yeah. Well, I can wait. They're going to shut it off in a minute. I'll just wait because I can't yell. 9 years. What's the difference, right? We don't have an alarm, right? No. Well, hopefully their battery will just burn out. Oh, wow. I'll try. Can you hear me? I'll just talk. We're getting used to it. Yeah. It's just music, background music. Now we have group hugs. What? Oh, okay. Now we have group hugs, the direct descendant of Hare Krishna, when 1960s hippie love-ins enfolded 1,000 of us, holding each other, chanting, Om, in fields, airports, parks, and grungy storefronts. Young New York City monks with shaved heads, clad in saffron pink robes, finger tambourines chiming, danced barefoot on the gritty sidewalks of the Lower East Side, ignoring, in their bliss, cigarette butts, dog dirt, and green bottle glass. Over their shoulders they wore white pouches, one hand always inside holding prayer beads, leaving one finger hanging outside like a little pink penis. From a faraway world, from deep inside other kinds of minds, they gave us a glimmer of love, chanting endless rounds of Hare Krishna, Krishna Hari, Hari Hari. Children of the 50s craved love-ins, raised on the illusions of capitalism, the existential void, the fear of being ground zero, a rotting jungle war of death. The love-in was for our parched hearts, water in the desert, where the flowers would bloom again from wherever they had gone. Now, in my open circle of trees, I am slowly, very slowly, learning to live alone with myself. The storm on the horizon is not approaching. It's leaving, thundering and drenching flashing mountains far away from me. I wait, shiny grasses waving, my warm-backed cats sleeping. The cows across the road stand peacefully, calmly. They exhale, moo, and inhale, om. That's when I first realized that moo and om were the same word, backwards and forwards, you know? Okay, now. That's really hard to read over. All right, I'll try. Should we just wait a few minutes? Because I'm losing my voice yelling. All right. Yeah. All right. The sand, this is called the House of Fun. The sand was so hot that summer of 1952 in Coney Island that I sat, oh, by the way, before I start, does everybody here know what a Coney Island whitefish is? Nope. Well, ask somebody from Coney Island because I'm not going to say it here. The House of Fun. The sand was so hot that summer of 1952 in Coney Island that I sat in the shade under the boardwalk where it stayed damp, smelling of old seaweed, Coney Island whitefish, and melting wax cups. You got it. Okay. Shadows of moving feet above played black notes of music below. Holding his hand, we walked the midway. John Henry's hammer's bell clanging as screaming riders sing to Calliope ragtime. The wall of the funhouse was painted red. The entrance was a square black hole in the pink mouth of a grinning red-nosed clown wearing big yellow shoes and a blue bowler hat. My father paid the fat man and sent me from the sun into the darkness. I slowly took a few steps into the night, cringing when a skeleton reached out for me. The ancient gypsy fortune-teller automaton in a cracked glass booth with a dirty scarf around her forehead shook her head, loudly laughing wickedly at me. I had to go forward. A dirty velvet curtain led me to moldy-smelling pitch darkness, touching soft walls forever, my only way out. This led to another curtain, into a shining, blinding maze of mirrors. Suddenly, there was a small, frightened 7-year-old staring at me, asking how to get out. I followed the cigarette butts, keeping my feet on the real floor, touching the cold glass on top of other greasy handprints, seeing myself over and over and over. A pair of shiny leather shoes stick out from behind the corner of a mirror. Real shoes, waiting. A dark shadow of a man who slowly comes towards me, black eyes under a hat. I panic. I run as fast as I can, banging into mirrors and sharp edges to get out. Just get out, don't look back, follow the real floor. Until, bursting into a long blue hallway, I find myself standing on a dirty, moving red Persian carpet. A conveyor belt that travels so fast I have to sit down as it winds its long way down, 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 in a series of bumpy little waterfalls, until I'm spit out of another clown's grinning mouth into the sunlight, right into the long legs of my waiting father. I'm crying. He laughs and says, "It's only a fun house." Taking my hand in his, we walk towards the setting sun as ketchup-stained paper plates wheel in the damp, salty ocean wind. I look back and see a man wearing yellow shoes and a blue bowler hat sitting on the carpet, riding calmly out of the clown's mouth. He looks at me smiling and waves. Okay, now. This is for my book. Until I came to the West Coast, I'd really never been to California. This was my first trip down to California. And just as a reference, the birds actually kind of symbolize the poets of the West Coast to me. It's called "I've Never Seen a Madrone Tree." A flock of birds flying together, landing in this town or the other, joining, separating. A black ribbon fluttering on the blue air, their calls softly sung or loudly croaked, recognized by one another. The one or two lone hawks are committed to not eating the more fragile-boned. They fly in the orange sunset, landing on a madrone tree or the roof of a crumbling arroyo house, on the side of the hot, dusty road, a chicken running through one's feet, ready to be plucked, then dipped into bitter chocolate for a few US dollars. They fly over rock-dark beaches, wild-sucking waves with dark, fearsome shapes hunching through the surface of the Pacific. Bright, hot heat of rocks slowly turns into wet, damp moss as the river of words winds northward, always the orange setting sun beside them. There are few thunderstorms here, the ear-shattering kind that breaks your bones. Just the wind, a fearful wind, and the fire that consumes. Faces here turn to the lowering orb every evening, speaking words of finality and Zen emptiness, the daily quenching of fire by water. Poets walk into the waves towards the round gold light, with their hands held before them, fingers disappearing, leaving green spots behind. Where I was born, I could see the sunrise blue and cool every morning across the black silver-edged line of the Atlantic. And the birds flew so fast I hardly heard them call, but I saw them flying down the canyon walls of steel across the hot asphalt as the orange setting bouncing ball of a sun set squeezed between two hard black skyscrapers like a heart beating in a breathless chest. Words fell out of windows to be carried on the black backs of ravens landing on trembling sunflowers. The endlessly unrelenting everyday dawn began the hard sidewalk-pounding work of words. Old years firing up kilns across rusty iron bridges, down to where the dead suck sugared limes, north to where granite-faced poets fall off mountains, crushing cool, sweet-smelling balsams. Of a summer evening on a soft, warm, white-sanded beach, a blue chill wind blows dark clouds that shadow us. sadly packing our blankets, painfully donning sandpaper shoes, we run home before the dark falls down. I stand on the shore, cold, salty waves lapping at my feet, both there and here. Okay. This is one of my travel poems. It's called The River Below. And I guess being that you live around here, you'll understand the old high wooden trestle on Foss Road. You may have seen it. It's called The River Below. Standing on this high old wooden railroad trestle on Foss Road, cold, relentless water rushes away below me, moving reflections of sky and trees across snowy boulders, never to be seen again. Moist black cedars define the river's path down to a frozen vanishing point. I would rather be standing by an ocean that comes to me over and over again, waves beckoning passionately, foamy fingers touching my feet, sky all around me to the horizon. In Florence, buried 4 stories under the gold mosaics of the Church of San Clemente, is the ruin of a Roman Mithraic temple. Bare tungsten bulbs illuminate a square room of pale yellow stone blocks, the ceiling low above the ancient stone altar, a muscular bull carved into its broken base. One wall has a glass window. What vista is down here to see? What landscape of the dark? Moving across the dirt floor, I look out onto a gray moving mist, hear the shushing of running water. An underground river has been flowing past this place for thousands of years. Coming from where, going where, all unknown, flowing forward into the dark. The dim, buzzing electric bulbs faintly illuminate the faces of dead souls passing swiftly past me. Falling forward, I enter the stream to be swept away by the river Lethe, the river of forgetting past lives. Floating, barely breathing in this frigid black flowing mirror, I'm swept away into the dark night, 50 feet of rock above me, far away from the noise of my living sky. These same waters once tumbled over hot sun-baked wet rocks, flavored with dark oregano bushes through dawn until the twilight of the gods. Unbeknownst to me, the river runs under Florence for miles until it gurgles up on a sunny grassy hillside next to 4 laughing tourists, sitting on green plastic chairs at a white table, shaded by a yellow umbrella imprinted with, in big red letters, Campari. High up in these dark-treed woods, a freezing mist rises up beneath my feet. I'd really rather be standing by the ocean. The old wooden trestle begins to tremble. I murmur, Et in Arcadia ego. Okay, I have one more poem that I can read here. I'm just wondering whether to insult everybody here or just, insult it. All right. Okay, what the heck? Worst that can happen is an alarm goes off, right? Okay. This poem was engendered by somebody coming to a poetry reading that I was at, who kept talking about how she had found God and that she was now saved and she was feeling wonderful inside. And, it was very nice, but it wasn't what I was hoping to hear that evening at a poetry meet. So this is called The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, and it has a preface by the poet William Blake, who lived in 1973. And he wrote, "Now the sneaking serpent walks in mild humility, and the just man rages in the wilds where lions roam." There is no God in poetry. Poetry has nothing to do with God. God doesn't care about poetry. There is no worshiping in poetry. There is nothing more tedious in intent than a poetic rapture of saving, finding, or ascent. At twilight, By the bank of a dark rushing river, we fling the line of a long rod to catch a little golden fish on our hooked finger, not knowing we are the fish looking for the universe, wanting to be caught. Swimming in the void, struggling to avoid capture, we fly through the night air, landing alone in a thicket of thoughts to be put on the scale. Hell is a very fertile place to be flung. Heaven is a deceptive place to land. It is where God lurks. Angels fly through memories seeking vengeance with the gentle purging of sorrows as brushing wings dry your damp-lined forehead. The voice of loneliness calls you to assume the position of prayer over words. Poets cannot be saintly verbal vegetarians. They must be carnivorous, lean, hungry for living words, leaving sharp fangs bloody. I want to listen to a poet who has chewed God up and spit out the blood of the Lamb, a poet whose words spread like a mad virus, a wildfire through the dry tinder of a listening room, a rapturous raptor. Alone with each other today, we are gathered here together in a timeless marriage of words to enact a ceremony of minds, for better or for worse. Let no God break us asunder. I do take thee. That's 20 minutes? Yeah. Okay. Oh, all right. Well, I had a siren interruption. That was a siren song. Okay.
Although that alarm apparently has gone off before, never during poetry night. Thank you for enduring that. Our next reader tonight is Terry Bush. He has been writing poetry since 1972 when he was living in Oakland, California. He has been published in such magazines as The Archer, Magic Blend, and Arts Horizons, and most recently online in Simply Haiku. He is the MC at a regular monthly poetry reading series at the Creekside in Woodinville, and please go and check that out. Tell us when it meets.
On the third Wednesday at 7 o'clock.
Third Wednesday, 7 o'clock at the Creekside in Woodinville. And that's, pardon?
Google it.
Yes. Or Bing it. Yes. His poetry has been published in 3 Seattle area anthologies, Gatherings and Gleanings, the North Shore Poetry Group, Reflections at the Creekside from the Creekside Readings, and the Redmond Association of Spoken Word anthology, Here, There, and Everywhere. He has recently published a book of his poetry, Almost Forever, Selected Poetry, from 1972 to 2014. That's a lot of poetry. Please welcome Terry Bush.
See, I got noise too. Okay, there we go. Peggy, thanks for taking the bullet for me. Okay. That was nice. You wanted to lead. Okay, there you go. Okay, you know, when Michael emailed me and said that it would be great if I could do a poem that has to do with food, and knowing that I was coming to the SoulFood coffee house, I assumed that it was a soul food restaurant. So this is about soul food. It's called Southern Comfort. I like visiting the Deep South, so green, lush, and warm, with the not-so-distant past yet apparent, regrettably. So much of both sides, black and white, of their souls forged and still being hammered out day to day, with the food to unite them and give them substance. And it's that down-home cooking that I look forward getting back to. In those family-owned places, you can have the chains like Cracker Barrel, Give me those hand-me-down from Grandma recipes, the hush puppies, fried okra, various greens, grits, cornbread, and mashed potatoes with white gravy. That's just the sides. Some that depend upon the season that grace and fill the spaces between the main courses, like fried and smoked catfish and crispy frog's legs, boiled crayfish and shrimp that you gotta peel, and the ribs, done a different way depending on what city you're near. I prefer the Memphis style. And let's not leave off the chicken, barbecued or fried. We define ourselves by the food we eat, and it shows. There is something so in-your-face unhealthy about that deep fat fried in large portions comfort of soul food. I don't care to live there, but I do like the occasional visit when all bets are off and I forget what's good for me and follow that base desire to go for what tastes good. The mic turned that into a sexy poem. This is one of my most recent poems, and as I do it, you'll see that it's appropriate to tonight's occasion. It's called Off on a Tangent, number 9. My father used to say that mathematics is the philosophy of logic. It was not something that a fledgling artist such as myself wanted to hear. I was weak in math. Then, thanks to the Beatles, I discovered the number 9. That got me right off the track. Then somebody I knew, a fellow hippie who was into numerology, told me that my number was the number 9 and that it was a magic number. It's so easy to say things like that. I decided to check it out with the calculator. To start with, it is constructed of 3 times 3, 3 triangles, 3 trinities, a triptych of 3s. 3 times 9 is 27. Add 2 to the 7, and you have 9. Now, here's where it starts getting magical. 4 times 9 is 36, and 3 plus 6 is 9. I won't go on, but given any number as big as you want times 9, if you add up the individual numbers in the sum, you get 9. When I discovered this in 72, it was an epiphany. I'm sure that my father was right, but there is more to it, infinitely more. Math is the language of engineering and physics, we are told, and now, with the help of computer graphics, we can go spinning off thanks to the Mandelbrot fractals and its branching branches, and the Fibonacci sequence, Euclid's golden ratio, with its chambered nautilus to DNA helix with its generations spiraling, to the tornado and hurricane spinning out and out to the spiral nebula. This dancing of all form is to the mathematical music of the spheres. Are there any mathematicians out there? Did I blow it? I got it. I have nothing to do with math. I just saw something on Facebook that really moved me. Last night, when I was doing the reading at the Creekside, Chris Jarmick, a little name dropping there, saw the title of my book, Almost Forever, and he said, "How's that possible?" Well, here it is. When my grandfather died, I was 10 years old. I asked my Sunday school teacher, "Where is heaven, really?" She was an honest, caring woman and replied, "Heaven is in your heart." This did not make sense to me, so I asked my mom about it, and she said, We don't know how, we don't know for sure where it is. I guess we won't know till we die. Die? I asked. And she replied, we're all going to die. Not you, I moaned. Yes, me too, she said. At this point, I was crying. To reassure me, she said, but that won't be for a long, long time. Is that like forever, I asked. It's almost forever, she replied. This calmed me down, and I stopped crying. My mom just died at the age of 95. Now I know how long almost forever is. And I'm not sure where heaven is, but I'm thinking it might be in my heart. I want to read another poem about my mom and food. It's called Mom in the Kitchen. She was brought up on a ranch and learned to cook comfort food in large amounts for the men. When she moved to the suburbs, she automatically became more cosmopolitan, having married a big city man, a son of immigrant parents. She was always a reader and a dreamer of foreign travel, so she bought a Sunset cookbook and began exploring the world through illustrated recipes. She did her own versions, always the country girl, of chop suey and sukiyaki, curry and condiments, enchiladas and tacos, spaghetti and meatballs, beef stroganoff and goulash. Her kitchen was our gateway to the world. All of her children grew up to be curious about other cultures, 3 of us marrying into them, and especially the food. A tradition we have inherited from a starry-eyed ranch girl who just wanted to go there. For a while, I lived up in the gold country of California, right off the Sierras, and I became good friends with a Native American, an old Miwok named Brown Tad, and these 3 are about him. First one is called Big Time. The sun enters the round house from above in arrow shafts, piercing without hindering the upward curl of cedar smoke, while an old man stands in the shadows singing a song taught him by his father. He slaps out the rhythm with a clapper stick, while a boy follows along on the foot drum, sounding out the heartbeat of the earth. The other Miwok boys of the dance troupe mimic the alert movements of a deer, each appearing, then pausing in the stripe of light pinioned by time, then vanishing into the darkness like the animal's spirit. Stones placed in rows, not granite or marble, just stones that the old Miwok man knows like the faces of the mother, sister, or brother buried below, their epitaphs inscribed in lichen and moss, cryptic and random, the language of memory. Remembering Brown. The old Miwok man could be cantankerous and has closed a door blaming me for all white atrocities. Other times, and this was rare, he could be open with a warmth that was full, like his round brown face, and a knowing gleam would rise in his dark eyes. Only his eyes would smile, sharing something very old and true. This next one is also from California. Davenport is a town just north of Santa Cruz, California. They got Santa Cruz, right? Davenport, you know Davenport. You may even know the Davenport Cafe. This is Been there? Davenport Cafe, all right. Fellow travelers, Davenport Cafe. People put on sweaters when they journey by the sea. The cafe was upholstered in them, muffling the china and silver clamor. The ocean slam-danced beyond the slight shelter of glass. Huddled over steamed clams, a family bickered like gulls. Company men waited out the rain with dark bread, dark beer, and chowder. Jocks, off-duty cops, and teachers hugged their tables like boats at a dock. Teresa and I dawdled over lunch, stretching it out to dinner. Pausing becomes a rival when you journey by the sea. I think I'll get into the Southwest here. I used to go to the Southwest almost on a yearly basis. It was like a pilgrimage. This is the first time I ever visited the Grand Canyon. It's called Grand Canyon Suite. It was in July of 1970. I was on my way back from the Holy Man Jam in Boulder. I caught a ride in Aspen that would take me all the way home to Oakland. It was with a couple in an RV camper who agreed to take me all the way for my contribution of gas money. We stopped in Taos Pueblo and overnight in Santa Fe, then the next night at Canyon de Chelly. We drove all the next day to arrive at midnight on the rim of the Grand Canyon. Instead of going to sleep, we walked out to the observation point to peer out into the gloom. There was no moon. It was not an opaque darkness, but a vast void defined only by sound, our ears as the sole sense of perception. In the farthest distance was a whisper from the Colorado River miles below, a sound like a constant breaking wave. And in the distance between, the wind shushed in the near pines and on outcroppings further down. A night bird screeched, and then again from down and further away, and a lone coyote echoing. This sightless vision is the most definite of my memories of this grand landscape. This was the first and the deepest. Where am I, besides being in the Southwest? A few more minutes. Okay, I'm going to bring us back up here. Get local. This is called bears. Over the years, I've had my share of encounters with the bears, no grizzlies. I got charged by one once when I got between him and a garbage can he considered his own. It sent me scurrying up the nearest tree, surprised how high I'd climbed in seconds. Once I was following bear tracks in the snow and caught up to him. What did I expect? Most of my encounters have been standoffs, with me speaking softly and backing up slowly. It's best when they are on the far side of a creek, preferably one that is deep and quick running. There was one that was on the outside of a fence, and I had to pick up my dog to prevent mayhem. Now I learned through a quiz on Facebook, the bear is my spirit animal, a Native American thing. Not surprised considering, but this is troubling. I'm not sure that they have made their way with me. Okay. I want to do one. I'll let you guess who it's about, because it's his birthday. It's called He Listens. He comes to all the poetry readings with his wife. She reads, and he does not. He just wants to be with her. But as long as he is here, he listens. Listeners are rare at poetry readings. Most are just other poets waiting their turn at the open mic. He actually likes good poetry and puts up with a lot that is not. He is that man with eyes sparkling. You may not know him. It doesn't matter. He is here because he wants to be. He may like what he hears or not, but he listens. Is that it? Okay. In deference to you, Michael, I'll read one of my haikus. A whole book of them here. I came prepared. I actually want to read maybe, let's see, 3 that were inspired by being at the Japanese garden. I know you go there quite often over here on the other side of the lake. Here's the first one. The rain stops, now dripping from the eaves, gravel being raked. The gardeners pause to discuss the beauty, then resume pruning. Seniors arrive, opening umbrellas, photograph.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you, Peggy. Let's take a short break, get something to eat or drink if you haven't already. If you'd like to sign up for the open mic, the sheet is down here, and our question of the month is, what is your favorite city? So if you haven't signed up, now is a good time to do that. Thanks again to our 2 featured readers, and we'll begin again in a few minutes.